The military-grade plasma bolt took him center mass. The sound was a distinctive, high-pitched whine followed by the sickening, meaty thud of superheated energy meeting flesh. In the high-domed silence of the Galactic Peace Summit, the smell of ozone and burnt fabric hit my olfactory sensors instantly. Marcus Kane, the human ambassador, staggered back 2 steps. A smoking hole, 3 inches wide, had appeared in his chest precisely where his heart should have been. I am Ambassador Kreltava, and I have seen many things in my cycles of diplomacy, but I had never seen a being survive a direct disruption of their central cardiovascular system. It is a fundamental law of biology: when the pump stops, the life ends. General Doxmer stood 3 rows behind me, his ceremonial rifle still venting heat. His 6 eyes blazed with what he clearly thought was righteous fury. "Enough," the general bellowed, his voice echoing across the tiered seating of the 47 represented species. "I will not sit here and listen to this creature lecture us about unity while his species spreads like a plague." The auditorium erupted. The Valari delegation began their rhythmic death wail. The crystalline Zephyrians emitted high-frequency panic chords that made my mandibles ache. Security forces flooded the aisles, weapons locked on the general. But I couldn't look away from the human. Marcus Kane didn't fall. He didn't even drop his tablet. He simply looked down at the charred, blackened cavity in his chest, then looked back up at the general. He coughed once, a wet, alarming sound, and cleared his throat. "Well," Marcus said, his voice slightly hoarse but impossibly steady. "That was rude." The chaos died as if a master switch had been flipped. Thousands of optical sensors, photoreceptive organs, and heat pits focused on the man who should have been a corpse 5 seconds ago. As I was saying, Marcus continued, adjusting his posture even as a dark, crimson fluid began to soak into his formal jacket. "If building bridges between worlds requires us to look beyond our preconceptions." I felt my respiratory system seize. He was still talking. He was using his own assassination attempt as a transitional sentence for his speech. Plasma rifles are not designed to wound, they are designed to obliterate cellular cohesion. They are the most efficient killing tools in the known galaxy. Yet, Marcus Kane stood there, swaying only slightly, as if he had merely been interrupted by a sneeze. "General Doxmer," Marcus said, his voice gaining a strange, gravelly strength. "I believe you've just provided the perfect example of what happens when fear overrides reason." The human took a step forward. A single drop of thick, red blood hit the polished floor with a soft pat. "You see," Marcus continued, ignoring the silver-armored security team that had now surrounded the podium. "The general represents a common phenomenon. When faced with something we don't understand, our first instinct is to eliminate it." I leaned forward, my earlier prejudices against these Deathworlders crumbling. This wasn't the behavior of a primitive savage. This was something that defied the very definition of mortality. "I'm not angry at you, General," Marcus said. "Fear is a natural response. It saved your species for millennia. But here's the thing about fear: it blinds us to possibilities." He raised a hand, stained with that same deep crimson, to signal the security forces to hold their fire. The lead Crothan officer, a 4-armed giant capable of crushing a starship hull, froze in pure confusion. "Ambassador Kane," the officer stammered. "Protocol requires we neutralize the threat. You are medically deceased." "Protocol?" Marcus offered a pained, amused smile. "Protocol doesn't account for the fact that I'm still breathing. I'm a bit lightheaded, granted, but that's beside the point." Marcus stepped off the stage. He began to walk up the aisle toward General Doxmer. Each step left a red mark on the white stone. It looked like a macabre breadcrumb trail leading through a nightmare. General Doxmer, a warrior who had commanded fleets across 3 star systems, was backing away. His hands shook as he fumbled to reload a fresh energy cell into his rifle. You should be dead," the general whispered. His 6 eyes were wide with a terror I had never seen in an HFY military leader. It was the terror of a man watching the laws of physics break in real time. "Should I?" Marcus asked. He was closer now. We could all smell the copper scent of his blood. According to whose definition of should? The human didn't stop. His complexion was turning a ghostly shade of gray, but his eyes remained locked on the general. "Humans come from a high-gravity death world," Marcus said, his voice dropping to a conversational tone that felt louder than any shout. "We've spent millions of years learning how to survive things that kill other species instantly. Plasma burns? We've survived nuclear radiation. Cellular disruption? We've adapted to viruses that rewrite our DNA." He gestured casually to the hole in his chest. "Physical trauma? We've gotten quite good at not dying when we're supposed to. Our brains can override our hearts for just long enough to finish a job." The general dropped his energy cell. It skittered across the floor, and he didn't even try to pick it up. He was staring at the human's hand, a hand that reached out and gently grasped the general's ornate ceremonial shoulder plate. "Oh, General," Marcus said with the patience of a tired teacher. "I don't think reloading is going to help either of us." Then, the impossible became the absurd. The human, bleeding out from a fatal chest wound, began to drag the general, a being twice his mass, back toward the podium. Doxmer's claws scraped uselessly against the stone as he was escorted like a misbehaving child being sent to timeout. "This is impossible," Doxmer wheezed, his entire worldview shattering. "The disruption, the cellular decay, you cannot be functional." "Should have, could have, would have," Marcus interrupted cheerfully. He paused to cough up a small amount of blood, wiped his mouth with his sleeve, and turned back to the silent assembly. "Now, General," Marcus said, placing a heavy, blood-slicked hand on the podium to steady himself. "Since you have everyone's attention, why don't we have a proper conversation about the benefits of cooperation?" I realized then that the human wasn't just surviving. He was winning. He had turned his own death into the most effective diplomatic leverage in galactic history. As the medical droids finally rushed the stage, Marcus Kane winked at the cameras broadcasting to 1,000,000,000,000 citizens. "Don't look so worried," he told the galaxy. "It takes a lot more than a hole in the heart to stop a human with a point to make."